So, part 2 of part 3 of the book. Still here and still back. Again, it's my neighbor's cat. See ya, cat. Sorry. A shot sounded in the distance. The man looked quickly over at the old man, every head turned toward him. For a moment, he continued to stare at the ceiling. Then he rolled slowly over and faced the wall and lay silent. George shuffled the cards noisily and dealt them. Whit drew a scoring board to him and set the pegs to start. And Whit said, "I guess you guys really come here to work." "How'd you mean?" George said. Whit laughed. "Well, you come on a Friday. You got 2 days to work till Sunday." "I don't see how you figure," said George. Whit laughed again. "You ain't been around these big ranches much, eh? Guy wants to look over a ranch, he comes in Saturday afternoon. He gets Saturday night supper, all 3 meals Sunday, and then he quits Monday morning after breakfast without turning his hand. But you boys come to work Friday noon. You got to put in a day and a half before you get anything, no matter how you figure." George looked at him levelly. "We're going to stick around a while," he said. "Me and Lenny's going to roll up a steak." The door opened quietly, and the stable buck put his head in. He leaned in with pain, the eyes. "Mr. Slim?" he said. Slim looked over took his eyes off Candy. "Huh? Oh, hey, Crooks. What's up?" "You told me to warn you, to warm up some tar for that mule's foot. I got it all warm." "Oh, sure, Crooks. I'll come right out and put it on. I can do it if you want, Mr. Slim." "No, I'll do it myself." He stood up. Crooks said, "Mr. Slim?" "Yeah?" "That big new guy's messing around with your pups out in the barn." "Well, he ain't doing them no harm. I gave him one of the pups." "I just thought I'd tell you," said Crooks. "He's taking them out of the nest and handling them. That won't do them no good." "He won't hurt him," said Slim. George looked up. "If that crazy bastard's fooling around too much, just kick him out, Slim." Slim followed the stable buck out of the room. George dealt, and Whit picked up his cards and examined them. "Seen the new kid yet?" he asked. "What kid?" George said. "Why, Curly's new wife." "Yeah, I seen her." "Well, ain't she a Lulu?" "I ain't seen that much of her," said George. Whit laid down his cards impressively. "Well, stick around and keep your eyes open. You'll see plenty. She ain't concealing nothing. I never seen anybody like her. She got the eye going out all the time. I bet she even gives the stable buck the eye. I don't know what in the hell she wants." George asked casually. "Been any trouble since she got here?" It was obvious that Whit was not interested in cards. He laid his hand down and George scooped it. George laid out a deliberate solitaire hand. 7 cards up, 6 on top, 5 on top of those. Whit said, "I see what you mean. I mean, no, there ain't been nothing yet. Curly's got a lot of yellow jackets in his drawers, but that's all as far as I can tell. Every time the guy's around, she shows up. Every time the guy's around, she shows up. She's looking for Curly. Or she thought she left something laying around. She's looking for it. Seemed to me she can't keep away from the guys. And Curly's pants is just crawling with ants. But they ain't nothing come of it yet." George said, "She's gonna make a mess. That's gonna be a bad mess about her. She's jailbait if I ever seen it. That Curly's got his work cut out for him. Ranch with a bunch of guys on it. Ain't no place for a girl, especially one like her." Whit said, "If you got ideas, you might come out of the town with the guys tomorrow night." "Why? What's going on?" Just the usual thing. We go to old Susie's place. Hell of a nice place, old Susie. A laugh, always wisecracking jokes. Like she says when we come up to the front of the porch last Saturday night. Susie opens the door and then she yells over her shoulder, 'Get your coats on, girls. Here comes the sheriff.' She never talks dirty neither. She's got 5 girls in there." "What does that set you back?" George asked. 2.5. You can get a shot for 2 bits. Susie got nice chairs to sit in too. If a guy don't want to flop, then he can just sit in the chairs and have a couple of whiskeys. She ain't rushing guys through and out of the kitchen. She ain't rushing guys through and kicking them out if they don't want to flop. As in flop on a mattress, right? "I might go look the joint over," said George. "Sure, come along. It's a hell of a lot of fun. Her cracking jokes all the time. Like she says one time, she says, 'I've known people that if they got a rag rug on the floor and a Cupid doll lamp on the phonograph, They think they're running a parlor house. That's Clara's house she's talking about. And Susie says, I know what you boys want. She says, my girls is clean. She says, there ain't no water in my whiskey neither, she says. If any of you guys want to look up an old Cupid doll lamp and take your own chances getting burned, well, that's where you ought to go. But if you want a good time, you stick right here with me. George asked, Clara runs the other house, huh? Clara runs the other house, huh? Southern drawl there. Yeah, said Whit. We never go there. Clara gets $3 a crack and 35 cents a shot, and she don't crack no jokes. But Susie's place is clean. It's got nicer chairs. Me and Lenny is rolling up a steak, said George. I might go in and have a shot, but I ain't putting down no 2.5. Well, a guy's got to have some fun sometimes, said Whit. The door opened and Lenny and Carlson came in together. Lenny crept to his bunk and sat down, trying not to attract attention. Carlson reached under his bunk and brought out his bag. He didn't look at old Candy, who still faced the wall. Carlson found a little cleaning rod in the bag and a can of oil. He laid them on his bed and brought out the pistol, took out the magazine and snapped the loaded shell from the chamber. Then he fell to cleaning the barrel with a little rod. When the ejector snapped, Candy turned over and looked for a moment at the gun before he turned back at the wall again. Carlson said casually, Curly been in yet? No, said Whit. What's eating on Curly? Carlson squinted down the barrel of the gun. He's looking for his old lady. I see him going around, running outside. Whit said sarcastically. He pays. Mute. Shh. No. Whit said sarcastically. He spends half his time looking for her, and the rest of the time she's looking for him. Curly burst into the room excitedly. And you guys see my wife? He demanded. She ain't here, said Whit. Curly looked threateningly about the room. Where in the hell's Slim? He went out to the barn, said George. He was going to put a tar on a split hoof. Curly's shoulders dropped and squared. How long ago was that? 5, 10 minutes? Curly jumped out the door and banged it after him. Whit stood up. I guess maybe I'd like to see this, he said. Curly's just spoiling, or he wouldn't start for Slim. And Curly's handy. God damn, is he handy. Got into the final of the Golden Gloves. He got newspaper clippings about it, he considered. But just the same, he'd better leave Slim alone. Nobody knows what Slim can do. Thinks Slim's with his wife, does he? Said George. It looks like it, Whit said. Of course, Slim ain't. At least I don't think Slim is. But I like to see the fuss of it. Come on, let's go. So, they're thinking that Slim and Curly are going to have a little fight, a little boom boom. Because, of course, Curly's jealous, thinking Slim's with his wife right now. And he's probably not. But it's kind of like a schoolyard thing, right? Hey, guys, there's going to be a fight. Let's go. Things don't change. 100 years later. George said, I'm staying right here. I don't want to get mixed up in nothing. Lenny and me got to make a steak. Carlson finished the cleaning of the gun and put it back into the bag and pushed the bag under his bunk. I guess I'll come over and see, he said. Old Candy lay still, and Lenny from his bunk watched George cautiously. When Whit and Carlson were gone out the door, and the door was closed after them, George turned to Lenny. What you got on your mind? I ain't done nothing, George. Slim says better I not pet the pups so much for a while. Slim says it ain't good for them, so I come right in. I've been good, George, honest. I could have told you that, said George. Well, I wasn't hurting him none. I just had mine in my lap and was petting it. George asked. You see Slim out in the barn? Sure I did. He told me not to pet that pup no more. How about the girl? You see the girl? You mean Curly's girl? Yeah. Did she come into the barn? Nope. Anyways, I never seen her. You ever seen Slim talking to her? Nope. She ain't been in the barn. Okay, said George. I guess them guys ain't gonna see no fight. If there's any fighting, Lenny, you keep out of it. I don't want no fights, George, said Lenny. He got up from his bunk and sat down at the table across from George. Almost automatically, George shuffled the cards and laid out a solitaire hand. He plays a lot of solitaire, eh, George? I bet you that's very deliberate. Lenny reached out for a face card and studied it. And he turned it upside down and back up again. Both ends are the same, George. George, why is both ends the same? I don't know, said George. That's just the way they make 'em. What was Slim doing in the barn when you seen him? Slim? Sure. You said you seen him in the barn and told you not to pet the pup so much. Oh, yeah. He had a can of tar and a paintbrush. I don't know what it was for. You sure that girl didn't come in? Like she come in here today? Nope, she never come. George sighed. You get me a good whorehouse every time, he said. A guy can go in and get drunk and get everything out of his system all at once, and there's no mess, not like what we got here. And he knows how much it's gonna set him back, too. This here jailbait is just the trigger of a hoosgow. I don't know what a hoosgow is, I'll have to look it up. Lenny followed his words admiringly, and moved his lips a little to keep up. George continued. You remember Andy Cushman, Lenny? Went to the grammar school. The one that his old lady used to make hotcakes for the kids? Yeah, that's the one. You remember anything if there's anything to eat in it, don't you, Lenny? George looked carefully at the solitaire hand. He put an ace up on his scoring rack and piled a 2, 3, and 4 of diamonds on top of it. Andy's in San Quentin right now on account of a tart, said George. Lenny drummed the table with his fingers. George? Huh? George, how long is it going to be until we get the little place and live off the fat of the land and get the rabbits? I don't know, said George. We got to get a big stake here together. I know a little place we can get on the cheap, but they ain't giving it away. Old Candy turned slowly over. His eyes were wide opened. He watched George carefully. Lenny said, Tell me about the place, George. I just told you last night. Go on, tell it again, George. Well, it's 10 acres, said George. It's got a little windmill, got a little shack on it and a chicken run. It's got a kitchen, an orchard, and cherries, apples, peaches, cots, nuts, got a few berries. There's a place for alfalfa and plenty of water to flood it. There's a pig pen. And the rabbits, George? Now, there's no place for rabbits yet, but I could easily build a few hutches, and you could feed alfalfa to the rabbits. Ruffles. Damn right I could, George, said Lenny. You're goddamn right I could. George's hand stopped working with the cards. His voice was now growing warmer. We could have a few pigs, and we could build a smokehouse, like the one my grandpa had. And when we kill a pig, we could smoke the bacon and the hams and make sausages and all that. And when the salmon run up the river, we could catch 100 of them, salt them down and smoke them. We could have them for breakfast. They ain't done nothing so nice as smoked salmon. Oh, when the fruit come in, we can can it. And the tomatoes, oh, they're even easier to can. Every Sunday we'd kill a chicken or a rabbit. Maybe we'd have a cow or a goat. And the cream is so goddamn thick, you can cut it with a knife and take it out with a spoon. Lenny watched him with wide eyes, and old Candy watched him too now. Lenny said softly, We could live off the fat of the land, George. Sure, said George. All kinds of vegetables in the garden. We want a little whiskey, we can sell some eggs or something, or some milk. We just live there, where we belong. There would be no more running around the country, getting fed up. No, we just have to we'd have our own place where we belonged. We wouldn't have to sleep out in the bunkhouse neither. Tell me about the house, George, Lenny begged. Sure. Well, we'd have a little house and a room to ourselves. A little fat iron stove. In the winter, we'd keep a fire going in it. It ain't enough land, so we wouldn't have to work too hard. Maybe 6-7 hours a week. 6-7 hours a day. And we wouldn't have to buck no barley 11 hours a day. And when we put in a crop, why, we'd be there to take the crop up. We'd know what come of our planting. And the rabbits, Lenny said eagerly. And I'd take care of them. Tell about how I do that, George. Sure. You go out to the alfalfa patch and you'd have a sack. You'd fill up the sack and bring it in to all little caged rabbits. They'd take a nibble and they'd nibble, said Lenny. That's what they'd do. I seen them. Every 6 weeks or so, George continued, thems would throw a litter. So we'd have plenty of rabbits to eat and to sell. And we'd keep a few pigeons, too, going flying around the windmill like they'd done when I was a kid. He looked raptly over at the wall over Lenny's head. And I'd be our own. We'd be in our own. And nobody could can us. If we don't like a guy, we could say, get the hell out of here. And by God, he's got to do it. And if a friend come along, we got an extra bunk. And we say, why don't you spend the night? And by God, he would. We'd have a setter dog and a couple of striped cats. But you gotta watch out for them cats. Don't get looking at them rabbits. Lenny breathed hard. You just let them try to get the rabbits. I'll break their goddamn necks. I'll smash them with a stick. He subsided, grumbling to himself, threatening the future cats, which might dare to disturb the future rabbits. George sat entranced with his own picture. When Candy spoke, they both jumped as if they'd been caught doing something reprehensible. Candy said, "You know where there's a place like that?" George was on guard immediately. "Suppose I do." "You don't need to tell me where it's at. Might be any place." "Sure," said George. "That's right. You couldn't find it in 100 years. Candy went on excitedly. "How much they want for a place like that?" George watched him suspiciously. "Well, I could get it for $600 or so." "The old people that owns the place is flat busted. Lady needs an operation. Say, what's in it for you? You ain't got nothing to do with us." Candy said, "I ain't much good with my one hand. I lost my right hand right here on the ranch. That's why they give me my job swamping. And they give me $250 because I lost my hand. And I got 50 more saved up right here in the bank right now. That's 300. I got 50 more coming by the end of the month. Tell you what," he leaned forward eagerly, "suppose I went in on it with you guys. That's $350 I put in. I ain't much good, but I could cook and tend to the chickens, hold the garden some. How'd that be?" George half closed his eyes. "I gotta think it over. We was gonna buy it all ourselves." Candy interrupted it. "I'd make a will and leave my share to you guys in case I kick the bucket, 'cause I ain't got no relatives or nothing. You guys got any money? Maybe we could do it right now." George spat on the floor disgustedly. "We got $10 between us." Then he said thoughtfully, "Look, if me and Lenny's here for a month and we don't spend nothing, we'll have $100. That'd be $450. I could bet we could swing the farm for that. Then you and Lenny could get her started up. And I'll get a job and make up the rest. And then we could sell eggs and stuff like that." They fell into silence. They looked over one another, amazed. This thing had never really been close to coming true. George said reverently, "Jesus Christ, I bet we could do it. I bet we could swing her," he repeated softly. Candy sat on the edge of the bunk. He scratched the stump of his wrist nervously. "I got hurt 4 years ago," he said. "They'll can me pretty soon. Just as soon as I can't swamp out no bunkhouse, they'll put me out in the country. Maybe if I give you guys my money, you'll let me hoe the garden after, and I ain't no good at it. And I'll wash ditches and feed the chickens and little stuff like that, but it'll be our place. I'll be let to work on our own place," he said miserably. You see what they done to my dog tonight? They says he wasn't no good to himself or nobody either. But they can me here. Can't nobody shoot me. But they won't do nothing like that. I won't have no place to go when they can me. I can't get no more jobs. I've got $30 coming time you guys is ready to quit." George stood up. "We'll do it," he said. "We'll fix up that little old place and we'll go live there." He sat down again. They all sat still, all bemused by the beauty of the thing. Each mind was popped into the future when this lovely thing should come to pass. George said wonderingly, "Suppose there was a carnival or a circus come to town, or a ball game." Book just like exploded out of my hand. "A ball game." Old Candy nodded in appreciation of the idea. "We'd just go to her," George said. "We wouldn't have to ask nobody, we'd just go. And we would just do it. We'd just milk the cow and sling some grain to the chickens and we'd go." "And we'd put some grass to the rabbits," Lenny broke in. "I would never forget to feed them, George. Honestly, I never would." In one month. Know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna write down the old people that owns the place that we'll take. And Candy here will send the dollars to bind her." "Sure I will," said Candy. "Sure I will," said Candy. "They got a good stove there?" "Sure, it's got a nice stove. Burns coal or wood." "I'm gonna take my pup," said Lenny. "I bet by Christ he likes it there. By Jesus, he does." Voices were approaching from outside. George said quickly, "Don't tell nobody about it. Just the 3 of us, okay? They're liable to can us so that we can make no good steak. Just go on like we was gonna buck barley for the rest of our lives, and all of a sudden someday we'll go pay and get out of here." Okay, we'll pause that. Part 2. It's a long chapter.